Hey everyone, it's Cathy Zielske. Welcome back to my channel and the craft/dining room. I have a new tool to share today. New brushes from Waffle Flower Crafts. Little different shapes. Tiny. Waffle Flower kindly sent me sets of their new brushes to play with, and today I'm going to share a card where I add some detail and depth to die cuts, which is something I just don't do very often. But now that I have little brushes to get into all the places, might be doing that a little more. Stick around to see that card project and the new brushes in action coming up next. Here's a look at the card project I'll be creating in today's video, and I love how this turned out, and I loved the ability to shade up the tulips. So let's take a look at the products I'm using today. I've got this wonderful layered tulip set from Waffle Flower Crafts, and I've got my hands on this wonderful new release of shading brushes. So you've got different types of tips for different types of shading, and I think when it comes to really getting your ink blending refined, these brushes are fantastic. So I'm really excited to have them. I am going to keep mine in these awesome little containers from Waffle Flower, and I think they look adorable and pretty in my space. Also, these are wonderful. Already foiled die cut greetings, ready to go. I'm super excited about that as well. Plus a random sequin. Don't know what that's doing there. So let's get started with what I'm going to use in cardstock. I just grabbed some scraps and then some inks that I thought would look nice because I'm going to keep this simple. I basically just want to have a few colors. I'm not going to try to cash some kind of creative check that my body can't back up. I don't know that phrase very well, but I just wanted to keep it simple. So I'm cutting a whole slew of the light lilac or lavender, and then I'm coming in with some darker cardstock as well. I think these are both from Gina Designs. I'll have all the supplies listed for you below, but I thought these looked really nice together. So die cuts, we're going. And these little pieces pop out really easily as well. So just poke them out with a pokey tool and you're good to go. Next I'll bring in my green, I'm pretty sure this is Jelly Bean Green from Gina K, and I'll cut this out for my greenery. So that way I have some leaves to play with, I've got my stem, and I think I have an extra stem in there somewhere, but this is basically the arrangement, and I realized after I had cut those out that I needed to have something for, is it the stamen? Is that what it's called? Flowers and science aren't really my thing, but I think it's a stamen. Although to me, there's a story that's coming about chicken feet, and we'll just stay with me here. All right, I'm using the first of the brushes here, and I'm taking Wilted Violet, and I'm just going to gently blend this at the base of this layer. And here's the thing about these brushes, you get different types of shapes for different types of shading. And this is perfect for keeping your ink in a very focused area, but the blending process is the same, right? You're just bringing it right into the cardstock. It's really amazing to me how you can change the look of a cardstock die cut just by blending on some color. I really have not done a lot of this, and it's probably because I just have regular blender brushes, and even the smaller ones I have, it's harder to do stuff like this. So, you know, the old thing, do you need more brushes? Well, of course you don't need them, but look at that. I mean, it's pretty cool. So I was really excited to create that look. All right, so one layer, 2 layers done. And of course, I'm just gonna wipe my ink away here on my little mat, and we'll move on with a different shader. Now here I thought it would be fun to take this little angled friend and just sort of add a little depth to the little cut. Well, it's not really cut lines, but it's the part that gets partially cut, so it gives you that detail. And on the first one, I hadn't really found my groove, but then when I turned the brush and just started to gently flick it in the direction like this, and it's very subtle, right? But it adds a little more depth to that detail that's been cut into the cardstock. So this is cool too, because then you have a very precise and focused way to add ink in details in long sweeps. Next, I brought in some crushed olive, and I think any green ink would work here. I wasn't sure if crushed olive was going to be too dark, but as soon as I started sweeping it on, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. It just adds almost a glowy look to the cardstock. So again, I'm using the brush that's this little round sort of angled thing at the bottom. I think this brush is fantastic. In fact, this one was my favorite of all of them just because it's that small little detail tip area that lets you control where you're putting the color. And there's an even smaller one. So, but here I brought in another one of the thinner angled brushes to just swipe up right over the little die cut detail for a little more dimension. And of course the inks dry back a little, so it does kind of smooth out. But again, it's just a really cool way to sort of zooch up your cardstock. You know, make it look a little fancier than whence you began, or something like that. And I actually didn't realize at first that this tulip went this way. I was playing with it the other way and I thought, that doesn't make sense. Then I realized, Kath, it's a bent leaf. You know what I mean? It's a bent leaf. So very proud of myself once I figured that out, but I love it. All right, so I've got some pieces here, and then I thought I'm gonna bring in the tiniest brush, this little brush, just to add a little bit of dimension to the centers of the flowers, to the stamens. Again, I think that's what it's called. But I thought this would be cool, except that I kind of lost track of the little pieces. Well, you'll see. We're going to make a few mistakes, but I'm going to show you a great way to recover. Well, I think it's a great way to recover. All right, we're just inking those up. And now we can start figuring out the card. So I'm going to create my card base here, and this is 11 inches by 4 1/4. So I'm going to score it right at 5 1/2 inches. And we're going to create a US A2 sized card. So the finished card is 4 1/4 inches wide by 5 1/2 inches tall. I always tape my cards closed because I use a very heavyweight cardstock and I need them to stay flat. And off camera, I cut out a domed arch die piece from this really cool set from Simon Says Stamp because I thought this is going to be so pretty for grounding my design. So I kind of laid everything out. See how that folded flower is? I love it. I had it flipped the wrong way before off camera, and then I thought something looks wrong here. But then I thought I'm going to bring in my yellow ink here, tap a little off, and just create a very light blend in the center. Now here I'm using one of the Waffle Flower regular full-sized blender brushes, right? And these are great for so many things, but for the smaller details, you can kind of see how those small brushes, right? They let you get in there. Now I'm adding a little glue to the back of this little center. And here was mistake number one. I don't know why I glued it so high up. And normally my husband does not ever comment on anything I'm working on. But I was filming this on a weekend and he walked by and he said, looks like someone's waving at you from behind the tulip. And I'm like, what? He goes, it looks like a hand, maybe a chicken foot. And I couldn't unsee the chicken foot. And I'm gluing this down. And I said, honey, walk away. Let mama handle the cards. You never know what's going to happen in the craft/dining room. Okay, we're popping it down, the panel that I blended. And now I'm just going to glue the pieces into place to build the little flower blooms. I love that the stem has 2 places for the flowers. I think this is so cute just to create your little bouquet of tulips. Adding the leaves, and I'm just using my liquid glue. I have Connect glue inside this wonderful little squeeze bottle. And again, you can see that depth on the flowers and how it just makes it look, a little fancier, a little special, even with the little chicken foot waving out of the flower. We're going to fix this, trust me, because after you've seen it, you cannot unsee it. You know how that is in anything, really. But once I got this in place, I glued everything into place with my little foam squares, too, so I could have a little dimension. And I used a thicker foam square on the bigger tulip just so that it could overlap the other tulip. So I wanted there to be a little visual dimension. Now check this out. These greetings are fantastic. They are printed on a heavyweight paper and they're foiled and perfectly die cut. Now look at that. If I were foiling this and die cutting this myself, wouldn't have looked as good. All right, let's add some sequins. Boop. I didn't give you the boop alert, but we're booping here. Boop. Little gold. I just thought 5 in gold would be nice with that greeting. Boop. Little boop and slide. Boop. There we go. And a couple more. Boop. Down here at the bottom. And boop. All right. And I thought to myself, I love this. I love this, except for the chicken foot. So here's what I did. Have you ever used undo to remove something from a project? Because this stuff is fan-frickin-tastic. It instantly dissolves adhesive, so you can pull things apart. Now, I didn't want to pull the whole flower apart, right? Because I didn't want to have to soak it too heavily. But here's the thing. You add the undo. It looks terrible at first, but it evaporates. And even with the ink blending, you'll see in the final picture, it actually looked fine. So I was able to trim down the stamens and nestle them deeper into the flower, which is where I should have put them in the first place. I just wasn't thinking, because that is what I wanted. I didn't want it to be looking like it was waving, right? Or like someone's foot was stuck in there. Although, again, you may not be able to unsee that. But I thought this was a zillion times better. And then I brought back in the other little pieces, which I just kept in yellow. I didn't want any contrasting color, right? Just for a little more dimension for this part of the flower. And that finished the card. But see how it's already starting to dry, the undo, in the time that I replaced these, and the shading is still intact. So, if you don't have undo, I am telling you, great tool to have in your craft/whatever room. And that's the finished card project for today. I love how it turned out in the end. Be sure to check out the new brushes. I will have all the supplies linked below, and I'll see you back here with another card project soon. Thanks so much for watching today. I would love to have you become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. And if you do subscribe, be sure to hit the gray bell below the video so that you don't miss the next time I post. Here are a couple other videos that you might be interested in watching. Thanks so much and have a great day.